The Red Death had long devastated the country. No pestilence had ever been so fatal or so hideous. But Prince Prospero was happy and dauntless. When his dominions were half depopulated, he summoned to his presence 1,000 friends, and with these retired to the seclusion of one of his castellated abbeys. This was a magnificent structure, the creation of the prince's own eccentric yet august taste. The Duke had a fine eye for colors and effects. His plans were bold and fiery, and his conceptions glowed with barbaric luster. There are some who would have thought him mad. His followers felt that he was not. It was necessary to hear and see and touch him to be sure that he was not. A strong wall girdled the abbey in. They left means neither of ingress or egress. The world could take care of itself. In the meantime, it was folly to think. The prince had provided all the appliances of pleasure. Towards the close of the 6th month of his seclusion, and while the pestilence raged furiously abroad, Prospero entertained his 1,000 friends at a masked ball of unusual magnificence. Let me tell of the rooms in which it was held. There were 7 apartments so irregularly disposed that the vision embraced little more than one at a time. There was a sharp turn at every 20 or 30 yards. To the right and left, in the middle of each wall, a Gothic window looked out upon a corridor which pursued the windings of the suite. The windows were of stained glass, whose color varied with the hue of the decorations of the chamber into which it opened. The room at the eastern extremity was hung, for example, in blue, and vividly blue were its windows. The second chamber was purple, the third was green, the fourth was furnished and litten with orange, the fifth white, the 6th violet. The 7th was shrouded in black velvet tapestries that hung over the ceiling and walls, falling upon a carpet of the same material and hue. In this chamber only, the color of the windows failed to correspond with the decorations. The panes were a deep blood red. In no one of the 7 apartments was there a lamp or candelabrum. In the corridors that followed, there stood opposite to each window a brazier that projected its rays through the glass, and so illuminated the room, producing a multitude of gaudy and fantastic appearances. In the black chamber, the effect of the firelight that streamed through the blood-tinted panes was ghastly in the extreme, and produced so wild a look upon those who entered, that there were few of the company bold enough to set foot within its precincts. In this apartment there stood against the western wall a clock of ebony. Its pendulum swung with a dull, heavy clang. When the hour was stricken, there came forth from the brazen lungs of the clock a sound which was clear and loud and deep, and exceedingly musical, but of so peculiar a note that at each lapse of the hour the musicians were constrained to pause in their performance. The waltzers ceased their revolutions, and there was a brief disconcert of the gay company. It was observed that the giddiest grew pale, and the more aged and sedate passed their hands over their brows as if in confused reverie. When the echoes ceased, a light laughter pervaded. The musicians looked at each other and smiled, as if at their own nervousness and folly, making whispering vows that the next chiming of the clock should produce no similar emotion. After the lapse of 60 minutes, another chiming of the clock, and then were the same disconcert and tremulousness as before. Nevertheless, there is much of the beautiful, the wanton, the bizarre, the terrible, and not a little of that which excited disgust. To and fro stalked a multitude of dreams. To the black chamber there are no maskers who venture, for the night is waning, and there flows a ruddier light through the blood-colored panes, and the blackness of the sable drapery appalls. The other apartments were densely crowded, and in them beat feverishly the heart of life. The revel went on until the 12th hour sounded upon the clock. The music ceased, and the waltzers were quieted, and there was an uneasy cessation of all things as before. But now there were 12 strokes to be sounded by the clock, and thus it happened, perhaps, that more of thought crept, with more of time, into the meditations of the thoughtful among those who reveled. Thus it happened that before the last echoes of the last chime had sunk into silence, many individuals in the crowd became aware of the presence of a masked figure which had arrested no attention before. As the rumor of this new presence spread whisperingly around, there arose from the whole company a murmur, at first of surprise, then of terror, of horror, and of disgust. It may be supposed that no ordinary appearance could have excited such sensation. The masquerade license of the night was nearly unlimited, but the figure in question had gone beyond the bounds of decorum. The whole company seemed to feel that in the stranger neither wit nor propriety existed. The figure was tall and gaunt, shrouded from head to toe in the clothing of the grave. All this might have been endured, if not approved, by the mad revelers around, but the mummer had gone so far as to assume the type of the Red Death. His vesture was dabbled in blood, and his brow was sprinkled with the scarlet horror. When the eyes of Prince Prospero fell upon this spectral image, he was seen to be convulsed with a shudder of terror or distaste. In the next, his brow reddened with rage. "Who dares make mockery of our woes?" he demanded. "Uncase the varlet, that we may know whom we hang at sunrise. Will no one stir at my bidding? Stop him and strip him, I say, of those reddened vestures of sacrilege." The Prince Prospero stood in the blue chamber as he uttered these words. They rang throughout the 7 rooms loudly and clearly, for he was a bold and robust man, and the music had hushed at the waving of his hand. As he spoke, there was a rushing movement of this group in the direction of the intruder, who was near at hand. With deliberate step, he made closer to the speaker. From a certain nameless awe, there were none who put forth a hand to seize him. He passed within a yard of the prince's person while the assembly shrank to the walls. He made his way with the same solemn and measured step which had distinguished him from the first, through the blue chamber to the purple, through the purple to the green, through the green to the orange, through the orange to the white, and thence to the violet, ere a movement had been made to arrest him. It was then that the Prince Prospero rushed hurriedly through the chambers. None followed him on account of a deadly terror that had seized all. He bore aloft a dagger, and approached within 3 or 4 feet of the figure, when the latter attained the velvet apartment, turned around, and confronted his pursuer. There was a sharp cry, the dagger dropped gleaming upon the sable carpet, upon which afterwards the Prince Prospero fell dead. Summoning the wild courage of despair, a throng of the revelers threw themselves into the apartment, seizing the mummer, whose tall figure stood motionless within the shadow of the clock. Now was acknowledged the presence of the Red Death. He had come like a thief in the night. One by one dropped the revelers in the blood-bedewed halls of their revel, and died each in the despairing posture of his fall. And the life of the ebony clock went out with that of the last of the gay, and the flames of the tripods expired. And darkness and decay and the Red Death held illimitable dominion over all.